It is Adrienne Lawrence, and now I'm going to essentially take you to school. We've got Kelley Fisher, a kindergarten teacher from Arizona, and Anthony Barnes, a middle school special ed teacher out in Michigan. And they are going to talk to us a bit about essentially the pandemic's impact when it comes to schooling and teaching. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime. Absolutely, thanks for having us.
Yes, it's really been leading headlines, these conversations on the shortages when it comes to labor as far as teachers go in a lot of schools across the nation. So Kelley, I'll pitch it to you first. Can you give us an idea of what is really going on here?
I will tell you that in my school district, we had 12 classrooms go virtual this week because we had so many cases. And we are even asking teachers who are home with COVID and might have mild symptoms to actually teach from home because we don't have enough substitutes to cover classes. We are on a daily schedule and rotation of covering each other's classes when someone is out sick. There are weeks where teachers get no prep period because they're covering for other teachers. And we are at the point where we are, begging parents to get certified to come in and substitute for us right now.
Wow, and are you seeing a very similar response out there in Michigan?
Absolutely. I mean, before the pandemic hit, there was already a shortage of teachers in Michigan. And if you were thinking about not coming into the field of education or retiring or just leaving, the pandemic really just kind of forced your hand and pushed you out. Similar to what Kelley was saying, we are subbing regularly. We have a shortage of subs. Recently, we had our upper administration, our central office staff coming in and subbing in our buildings, and we are asking everyone, if you've ever thought about subbing or if you're kind of curious about what's really going on in schools, so then come and sub. But it's more than just the teachers who are short-staffed. We're short kitchen staff, we're short bus drivers, paraprofessionals, you name it, all the essential staff to really educate our children, we're short. We need all hands on deck right now.
Wow, and as I understand that America's public schools were really struggling to stay open with staffing troubles, even to some extent before this latest surge hit. And also this first week in 2022 that at least 4,500 schools across the country were closed in terms of their physical building for at least a day or more. And this is scary as we look at how the rest of 2022 is really going to ride out. And so when it comes to these labor shortages in terms of these lack of teachers, staffing, support, Kelley, where are we going with this?
I have to be honest, I just see it getting worse. I am constantly hearing from teachers around my district and through social media about the lack of desire to return next year. We have teachers who went in over winter break and closed up their classroom and left their keys on their desks. They just are feeling at a point where they cannot come into school anymore. They cannot do their jobs to the best of their abilities. And it doesn't really have anything to do with what's happening within the classroom with our students. You're not going to find a teacher that doesn't say that when they shut their door, they love to do what they do with their kids. It has to do with all of the other things, worrying about making sure that they're safe, worrying about making sure that all of our lesson plans and our ducks are in a row, because who knows when we're gonna have to cover for another class, and making sure that our cafeteria staff and our paraprofessionals are there to help with what they need to do every day. We have districts in Arizona that are daily canceling bus routes because they don't have drivers to drive them. And my heart goes out to those parents having to try to scramble to get their kids to school. But I also have such concern and a heavy heart for our educators and any employee of public schools right now, because we are not only just dealing with our jobs, but we are also trying to deal with so much more. And it's all new territory for all of us. So it's at a breaking point for a lot of teachers.
Yeah, I could imagine. And it's my understanding from the things I've read that a lot of these educators have been pushed to the brink at alarming rates, in large part due to money. The fact is the funding isn't there, whether it's for salary or even just for schools and teachers to have the supplies they need. But also the pay has really been stagnating for decades, with teachers making almost 22% less than other workers, really with comparable education levels. And at some point, that is definitely going to come to a head. And it seems to be essentially coming to a head right now during the pandemic, because you're also, as you've noted, Kelley, going up against the fact that we have issues with that could potentially threaten our health. And so being put in all of those moving pieces and parts, I see where we are. And so Anthony, how is this impacting you all? Is it also an issue in terms of the economics and also health related issues out in Michigan?
There's a lot of that going on right now. Especially the health, obviously. I wanna go in and I wanna make sure all my students are safe. I wanna make sure I remain safe. My family members, my grandparents, we're all safe. Recently in Kalamazoo, where I teach, we had a student pass away this week. So not only are we worrying about the impact of being in the classroom and staying safe from COVID, we're worried about the social emotional toll that it's taking on a lot of our students. And so that on top of the already heavy load of being a teacher, that's not just a career, it's really just a lifestyle and a state of mind. But on top of that load, we are worrying about all those other impacts. And you mentioned the economics of the matter. In Michigan, we've had a decline in enrollment in teacher prep programs. In Kalamazoo, where we have Western Michigan University right here in town with a teacher prep program, but no one wants to go into the field of education. And a lot of it is because of the pay, like you mentioned. I went to school to be a special ed teacher for just as long as some engineers, but I don't make a comparable wage to engineers. And I'm getting my master's degree right now, which is more of an investment in myself and in my students, but that isn't necessarily reflected in my pay. Now, I hear a lot that teachers don't do it for the income, we do it for the outcome. And that's something that is partially true. We do it for the outcome for our students. We do it for the benefit of our society. But at the same time, we have families that we need to support. We need to support ourselves at the same time. And from my perspective, it feels like we're being taken advantage of. Our kindness is being taken advantage of, because society knows that if you go into the teaching profession, you're not gonna put yourself first. You put your students first. You put the family and the community first, and it makes it very difficult.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it feels to some extent exploitative, because it kind of is. The fact is that, saying that, teachers do it for the kids, yet you have bills to pay, you have to eat as well. And if people really wanted to value our youth and raising up the next generation, they'd be investing in their education. So why wouldn't you pay teachers that quality amount that they deserve to be paid, since they are essentially being responsible for the next generation of individuals? And on that similar subject, I know there has been a lot of chaos with schools and parents with this critical race theory nonsense and whatnot, and trying to regulate whatever your curriculum is. And I'm sure that's adding a certain level of stress, because as we've seen a lot of parents being unjustifiably angry with teachers. And so Kelley, how has that impacted you in terms of your work, to the extent that you find yourself facing this in Arizona?
We have teachers all across the state of Arizona who are afraid to go to their school board meetings, afraid to participate in the business of the school where they work, because they're in fear of being attacked by these angry parents. And it is a very sad situation. And to sit and listen to our governor's State of the State address on Monday, where he himself addressed this and said that every teacher should post every lesson, every article, every artifact, everything they use in their classroom online, so that parents can look through it and make sure that everything is being done as they expect, is really frightening. And it does weigh very heavy on a lot of teachers. It's very sad when you have a governor who says that, yet did not bother during his entire State of the State address to thank teachers for basically being frontline workers in the middle of a crisis, for making sure that our students were fed and taken care of And we served, and I'm sure that Anthony would agree, we served in many times as a counselor, as a helper to the entire family throughout all of this because we care. But then to turn around and have these parents and our own governor to villainize us is really another breaking point for teachers to just say, I've had it, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I can make more money doing something else and not have these pressures and these constant attacks.
Absolutely, to essentially have people micromanaging you and looking over your shoulder, those parents, it's like if you want to be this involved, you might as well homeschool your child because as far as I'm concerned, they ain't paying you enough to deal with that kind of nonsense. And so Anthony, I know they have out in Arizona right now, the Treasury Department has essentially threatened to keep the relief funds from Arizona for using it to fight school mask rules. And so that there is a lot of issues going on with that. But I'm wondering out in Michigan right now, are you also finding that you're running into issues in terms of how your school decides to handle the pandemic as well as the curriculum?
In terms of how we're handling the pandemic, our districts, it is very inconsistent. Where I am, I'm in Southwest Michigan, and how we're handling it in Southwest Michigan and how they're handling it in, let's say, Detroit aren't the same. In my district, we've had a mask mandate all year. Some schools have had no mask mandate. So we need a lot of consistency. And in terms of the funds, our governor is actually very pro-education. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is doing the best she can, from my opinion, to help support educators. But what we really need is the support from the communities in everything that we do, including choosing the curriculum and giving our students an accurate depiction of our history and how the world sits right now.
Yes, that is such an incredibly, just a very strong point and an important one in terms of people getting the education they need. And also it's so incredibly important that you teachers are provided with the support, whether it's economic as well as just being supported in your communities. And so I wanna thank you both for all of the work you do and for continuing to stand up for what's right. Thank you again for joining us, Kelley Fisher, as well as Anthony Barnes. You are a credit to your profession and we appreciate everything you do as teachers.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.